Hello, everyone. I'm Ronit Rogoszinski. I'm a Speakers Board member of Over 40 Females, and I'd love to welcome you to our 20-minute online breakout session, Money Talks. Over 40 Females has weekly educational teleseminars that range from fashion to finance to building your business, strengthening your spirituality, health issues, and endless other subjects that you are not a member, endless other subjects. Now, obviously, if you're not a member, we want you to find out more. So please go to over40females.com, where their basic online membership starts at only $17 a month. So now, okay, let's start talking about me. First of all, I really want to thank Judy Gross, the president of Over 40 Females, for having me on today. And basically, as a certified financial planner, I live in a world of compliance, so please allow me to just let you know that my company, Arch Financial Group, is not affiliated with Over 40 Females, but myself as a certified financial planner and a member of the Speakers Board of Over 40 Females, it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience to be a member. And again, thank you, Judy, for letting me be the speaker today. So now, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in the financial service industry for over 25 years, and as a certified financial planner, I've been working with singles, with couples, with family members, business owners for years about anything and everything that has to do with their finances. About a year ago, I was given the phenomenal opportunity by a colleague and a mentor to be a contributing member to a book that she was putting together called Money Talks. Her thinking was we needed to come up with some strategies to share with our readers where you can master tricky conversations about money. And so I was asked to be one of the 10 co-authors of this fabulous book that talks about different money talks you can have or should have with those around you that you love, that you do business with, from clients to elderly parents, and really give in each chapter really doable and actionable tips on how to have that particular money conversation. So I'm proud to say and share with you that if you turn to Chapter 3, and oh, by the way, this book is available on Amazon at Kindle. Kindle on Amazon, I believe, is the right terminology. But if you do turn to Chapter 3, guess what? Ongoing money conversations for couples is my chapter that I contributed to the book that I'm actually quite proud of. So what I wanted to do today in the 20 minutes that we have together is really share with you a little bit more in detail the first 5 tips that I shared with my readers, and then give you some highlights on the last 5 tips, and then share with you at the end my contact information should you want to discuss, review, ask me any additional questions. So when you really start to think about money conversations that we should have with our spouses, our significant other, our partners, the people that we love that share our lives with us, quite honestly, for some couples, a conversation about money can actually be more awkward than talking about sex. And I have to tell you that I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and money just puts some edge on the conversation that really makes it awkward. So agreeing that this topic has to be addressed together and worked on as a team can really be a key to achieving financial health within the household. What I'm suggesting to you, though, is that you need to make the necessary time to start this conversation, understanding that this whole process will benefit your family for years to come. And more importantly, I think, is addressing what I think some people see as a dreaded conversation, with anything that has to do with money. What I will tell you is that when it's done at an age and a time, preferably that's sooner in your relationship, can actually be more beneficial to you in the long run. So again, when you do this properly, and what I want to share with you next is a couple of ways to get this process in place as efficiently and as effectively as possible. But when it is done properly, dealing with these issues that money raises can really strengthen your relationship. And honestly, that's, who doesn't want that? So let's dive into some of the tips that I think, you should use and explore. First and foremost, you need to set the ground rules for this conversation. And now, what do I mean by that? The first suggestion that I make, and I know that this is going to be really tough in this day and age, but when you are going to start this conversation, one of the things you need to agree on is to turn off your cell phones and all other electronic devices. Now, the reason that I say this is I really want you to concentrate on the project at hand. Addressing money issues can really be challenging, and it's going to be challenging enough without getting sidetracked and distracted by the outside world. So please turn off and put also your egos aside. As much as you want to take this time and sort of start to maybe rip at each other when you're going to start talking about money issues, please understand that this process is not for criticizing or pointing fingers. This is really a time to come together in an agreement on goals and priorities that you're both going to pursue. You're going to want to create an action plan that leads you forward. So focus on using language that is proactive and positive, not words that cut down or belittle your partner. You need to agree to disagree, okay? You really do need to agree to disagree because there will be priorities, practices, or simple calculations that you're both going to see very differently. So I strongly suggest that you start this conversation without including any outside professionals, such as your accountant, your financial advisor, your attorney. Really, these professionals and trusted advisors can be called on later. But for now, just start by agreeing that working on this together is something that you both want and are willing to participate in. So step number 2. What I suggest is that you start by understanding where you are right now. So by starting this conversation and creating lists that allow you to understand where you are right now will really help you know where you need to make some adjustments or enhancements or even continue to do the right things to get you to where you ultimately both of you want to be. So start by creating lists that, first of all, list all your assets. Now, you might be in a relationship where you have your own assets that you hold alone, and there might be some things that you hold jointly. So each and every one of you needs to list the assets. You need to put the description, the value, the location, items such as bank accounts, investment accounts, retirement plans, even real estate are just a few examples of what you should be including. Again, both individually, if you hold it individually, and obviously together. You also want to have a full description and a list of all your liabilities, including the interest rates and the terms of any loans that you might be carrying. Again, list items such as mortgages, student loans, car loans, credit cards. Again, these are just a couple of examples. But again, list things that you own alone and things that you own jointly. Next, you also want to, in order for you to understand where you are right now, it's also important to disclose or to list all your incomes, the money that's actually coming into the household, as well as all of the expenses that you have, and that's with the money that's going out. Now, here is what I'm going to tell you to just sort of stop and just take a minute, because when you list these items, do not, and I strongly repeat, do not stop to start criticizing or complaining about any one-line item on this list. Okay, realize you're taking an inventory of your household's current financial status. All right, this is not a time to start pointing fingers and lay blame, one versus the other. This is really an exercise that will eventually highlight shortfalls and weaknesses. But understand that once these shortfalls and weaknesses are illuminated, then they can be eliminated. Okay? Let's move on to number 3. Let's talk insurance. I want you to also at this point list all your coverages, from health care, disability, property, casualty, to life, to any other types of insurances you might have, maybe through your employer benefit package or even if you're holding it on your own. It's actually very, very important for you to disclose all of these policies to each other. Again, if you're holding things on your own or have had them before, the marriage, the partnership, your relationship. So you really want to make sure that you list all of these insurances. And in fact, I also recommend at this point to personally review who you've listed as your beneficiary on all of these policies. Because again, remember, things happened, and what might have been the proper beneficiary 5, 10, 15 years ago may not be relevant today. So, because again, realize we move through the various stages of and uncertainties of our lives, and so we may need to make changes and updates to these policies. So, again, make sure that you do this, because honestly, if you don't and you forget to update a beneficiary, really the ones that will be adversely affected by this is really the loved ones in your life. So you want to make sure that you have a clear picture of where you are today, and again, like I said, by listing and really disclosing your assets, your liabilities, your income, your expenses, and all of the protection items that you have on file. So number 4, let's talk about priorities. You want to set priorities. Now, each of you really needs to create a separate list of priorities, and I would suggest that you include these items, items on this list such as paying down student loans, saving for retirement, buying a house, keeping expenses down, just to name a few. But I would suggest to you that this list should be very subjective, and because it's going to be subjective, I recommend that you do this separately first. Okay, so in other words, either move to separate sides of the room, or decide to go and have a cup of coffee alone somewhere and then come back in an hour, whatever works for you. But I really suggest that you do this separately first, and then once you both have actually compiled your list of priorities, come together to review and discuss them. There's going to be differences in your priorities. I guarantee you now, there's going to be differences in your priorities. So please remember, don't berate each other. Don't start the, oh my God, this is a priority for you type of language. This is really about just putting something down that you two can work on together. So this may very well be a time that you might have to compromise on some issues and combine your priorities in such a way. But again, doing that will enable you to move forward. On number 5, though, you'll notice that I put dream big. And on the dream big list, this is, again, I would love to see you create a list of priorities. Before I mentioned, in sort of the number 4, set your priorities. I mentioned that this is sort of the values, right? What's important to you. But there's also sort of these big dream, almost like a wishful thinking list. So I'd love for you to also then put a separate list of this wishful thinking list, because what you might notice is that one of you may be all about the practical items I mentioned just before, while the other one comes up with a fantasy list. So when you create your list of priorities, they need to be practical and reflect your lifelong values and goals that can then be prioritized, executed, and monitored and actually administered to ensure that your household's financial well-being is something that's ongoing into the future. I do find, though, that sometimes, that dreamer amongst us, those dreaming big, really gives you a freedom to include some wishful thinking and add some fun into your relationship. So, while the priority might be, for example, to pay down a student loan, saving to go on a cruise to celebrate your, 10th year anniversary can also be a goal that is important and should be worked on. The practical side of you might say, I want to buy a house for the family, as a top priority, while the other one might say, I would love to go skydiving. How can we afford to go skydiving if we also want to buy a house? So obviously both lists genuinely are legitimate and both can be accomplished. What needs to happen, though, is you need the key to getting them both accomplished is really prioritizing. And what it'll do for you, prioritizing those goals, will really dictate as to how you are going to divide up your funds and your assets and start to really put together an action plan. What I want to do, though, is to encourage you again to not come up with criticism of each other or downplaying one of your priorities versus the other one's priorities. Understand that ultimately what's going to need to happen to make things doable is that you might just need to come up and choose the top 5 must-haves that get added to some sort of a plan and possibly postpone some of those goals for right now. Because what you need to do is when you plan with a shorter list, what it should do and what it could do for you is make it more doable and, quite frankly, more realistic. So realize that the list that you have today can be revisited and should be revisited in a process over the years, so that the goals that maybe didn't make the list right now might just make it onto the list sometime in the future. So I hope as far as the sort of the top 5 tips for you, that was helpful. What I would suggest that the other tips that I shared with my readers in this chapter then moved on to really assigning responsibilities. Okay, really taking on the hard part of saying, you know what, I can actually take care of this while you take care of that. But really assigning responsibilities to getting things done. You then also want to set up measurable processes and deadlines. Some of us have absolutely no problem, meeting deadlines and doing things on time, while some of us, the procrastinator in us just takes over and stuff never happens. So really, as a step number 7 in this process, set up measurable processes and deadlines and stick to them. I would suggest that number 8 on this tip list would be to execute, to actually go and get things done. And I would encourage you to then, step number 9 is actually review. Keep track. Okay, and again, I give a whole bunch of tips as to how to actually keep track of your plan in the book, but I would suggest to you that tracking it and actually keeping track of it and reviewing it is crucial. Ultimately, I would suggest that you can, at some point in this process, call in some coaches, as I call them. That might be a great time to really turn to the professionals in your lives that you know, may have worked with in the past or would like to seek out new ones, but really bring in some professionals to make sure that your priorities, your plan, your execution lines up and matches and gets you to where it is that you want to go. Ultimately, as couples, we really do have strengths and weaknesses that, for lack of a better phrase, complete each other. And I think that when you agree to disagree on certain things, agree to share in this process, agree that ultimately what you want for yourself is a healthy financial life, really doing these things together as a team is very beneficial, not just to you personally, not just to you as a couple, but really to the family and to the household that you're building and creating over the years. I would say I encourage you, at this point, I would love to share with you my contact information. I can tell you that over the years, working with both singles, couples, like I said at the beginning, families, business owners, and sometimes really individuals that become single, not by choice, but just by life throwing at them the challenges that sometimes life throws at us, I can tell you that those family units, whether they're, again, single couples or whatever, that have gone through this process, that have actually talked about the priorities, set a list of priorities, put together processes in place that were executable and reviewable and measurable, when life threw them curves, so to speak, were able to deal with those curves in a very efficient, very effective way. Unfortunately, those that did not deal with these money issues ahead of time really found it to be quite a challenge. And if there's one thing that obviously we all say, God forbid we don't want this stuff to happen, but I will tell you, planning for the worst and then hoping for the best really leads you to a much more relaxed, a much more pleasurable, a much more enjoyable life that, without the planning, worrying about money, worrying about the finances could really lead to a very stressful, very unproductive being that is really not what we want. So I encourage you to, again, set the tone, understand that this is going to be a process that you're both going to work through. Set a time to have that conversation. Get rid of the distractions. List what it is that you have, even if it means coming clean about some things that you may not be so proud of or some habits that you may not really want to share. Put the stuff on the table. Put it on the table. Deal with it in a mature, productive way. And I would say to you that in the book, in fact, there are other tips from other authors that talk about having those very tough conversations that you really do want to avoid. So it's not just about money, but there are other tips in there about having other types of conversations with different people that might help you as well. But once you put the assets and the liabilities and the money that's coming in, the money that's going out, and you get a really good sense of where you are right now, you are then able to list your priorities. You know where you want to go, and now you can start to put together a process and a manner with which to execute the action plan that really ultimately will get you to where you want to be. And again, that's really, we just want to live productive, happy, healthy lives, and knowing that things that are under control in your life enable you to live that more peaceful and more enjoyable life. So again, I've posted my contact information here. I'm based in Garden City. My direct line is, I'm just going to read it out. It's 516-596-8581. You can email me at Ronit, R-O-N-I-T, at archfg.com. You're welcome to visit me on and my team on our website at www.archfg.com. And that actually stands for Arch Financial Group. We have both offices here in Garden City as well as my partners who are based in Boca Raton, Florida. And I really just want to thank you all for listening in today. And I hope you found this helpful. And even for more great advice, including some of my past online events, as well as some of the other members of the Speakers Board of Over 40 Females, I welcome you to go to over40females.com/educational video library for some fabulous conversations, interviews, and educational seminars that, again, Judy Gross, the president of Over 40 Females, has been so kind and generous with all of us to allow us to participate on this platform and really share with you our passion about what it is that we do every day, and are grateful for having the opportunity to serve our clients and to serve the communities that we live in this manner. So again, thank you, and I wish you all a wonderful, healthy, great day. Take care. Bye-bye.